Huge blow to the craft community. Jo-Ann Fabrics files for bankruptcy.
Jo-Ann's revenue has been on the decline.
Burdened by a heavy debt load, nearly $500 million.
Decline in sales.
To revert back to a private company.
I declare bankruptcy!
For the record, this video has nothing to do with Chappell Roan, or should I say Chappell Jo-Ann? I'm so sorry. But I've been nonstop listening to her, this album title has been on my mind, and in my humble opinion, it perfectly encapsulates Jo-Ann's role in the craft store cinematic universe. I don't honestly really know what I mean by that, but I have a lot of thoughts that I'm going to share with you. And I'll be completely honest with you, researching this one kind of bummed me out, so it's not going to be the silly little break from the world that some of my other videos are. I do have videos that are that, and I'll have more in the future, but this one is kind of a bleak look at corporate greed and how it affects all of us. In the trifecta of big box crafting stores, Michaels, Hobby Lobby, and Jo-Ann, there are many crafters that are ride or die Jo-Ann fans, and for good reason. Michaels doesn't sell fabric, and Hobby Lobby has its own problems. Watch this video if you want to hear more about that. Jo-Ann Fabrics, the Hudson, Ohio-based haberdashery and fabric store, has been in operation for over 80 years. The very first store opened in Cleveland, Ohio in 1943 as the Cleveland Fabric Shop. The second store opened in 1948, and 20 years later, after 16 more stores had opened, they renamed the chain Jo-Ann Fabrics. In 1968, they changed the name of the big corporation to Fabri-Centers of America and became publicly traded. At this point, Jo-Ann Fabrics remained underneath this big umbrella of Fabri-Centers. Throughout the 70s and 80s, they began expanding the scale of their stores to larger locations, and in 1990, they opened a 1.2 million square foot distribution center in Hudson, Ohio. In 1998, they changed the name back to Jo-Ann Stores, Inc., and all of the retail locations changed to Jo-Ann Fabrics. They operated for nearly a decade as a public company until in 2010, they were bought out by private equity firm Leonard Green Partners in a $1.6 billion deal. More on this later. In 2018, Jo-Ann rebranded a little bit to get rid of the fabrics from their official name and to get rid of the hyphen. This isn't a Mandela effect thing like the spelling of Bernstein Bears or the Fruit of the Loom cornucopia. There was a conscious rebrand so that people wouldn't exclusively associate the store with fabrics. This final name change is notable because it follows the pattern of a few other companies, like Dunkin' Donuts rebranding their marketing to Dunkin', Starbucks Coffee to Starbucks, and Weight Watchers to WW. In the case of the former two, this was an attempt to broaden the range of products that they could offer and not associate with only one specific thing, like coffee or donuts. And in the case of the latter, this was to distance themselves from sort of the negative connotations around the brand. In an article for Vox, Eliza Brooks discusses this phenomenon, saying, "By dissociating from one specific kind of product or area of focus, they can either push a new message or communicate to customers that they sell a wide range of items, all the better to grow and grow per the demands of capitalism." And in my unprofessional opinion, where Jo-Ann was concerned, they changed this name to, say it with me, widen their market niche in order to grow even bigger. If you've shopped at a Jo-Ann in the last 6 months or so, you may have noticed some signs of distress, like understaffed stores, understocked shelves, or excessively long delays on online orders. If you have, my theory is that this is due to Jo-Ann's, how do I put this? Financial problems stemming from a lack of cohesive leadership and putting corporate profits over improving the brand or employee compensation. Sorry, did I show my cards too early? No spoilers for the conclusion. Anyway, by the end of December 2023, Jo-Ann started popping up on lists of stores most likely to declare bankruptcy in 2024. And by mid-January, even more analysts were predicting a looming Chapter 11 bankruptcy for Jo-Ann. By every metric, Jo-Ann seemed to be struggling. They were having cash flow problems. The stock price was plummeting. In January of 2024, their stock was sitting at 50 cents, down from $2.15 on May 8th, the day that their CEO retired. And all of this is pretty far down from their peak in 2021 of $16.92 per share. In addition, sales were down 3% in the first 6 months of 2023, as opposed to the same period in 2022, and they were paying bills late. According to data from CreditSafe, Jo-Ann paid 20 to 30% of their bills late in the last 6 months of 2023. It's not really a good look. As you may already know, on March 15th, 2024, Jo-Ann filed for voluntary Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the state of Delaware.
Hi, I'm in Delaware.
Their current debt is listed at $2.44 billion with total assets of $2.26 billion. They announced their bankruptcy through this news release with a cute little craft-related banner on their website to ease the blow. For those unfamiliar, Chapter 11 bankruptcy is traditionally referred to as a reorganization bankruptcy. So before you panic, let's talk about how this happened and what this means for the 815 plus stores across the continental United States. From what I understand, this means JOANN is entering a TSA, or Transaction Support Agreement, with its financial stakeholders. What does this mean? Basically, the court will help them adjust their business strategy. As a part of this filing as well, JOANN is going to receive $132 million in new capital in order to cut their debt by $505 million. While this goes on, they can operate business as usual and retain control of their assets, aka the stores. So at least for now, the stores will remain open as they go through this whole process. This is as opposed to Chapter 7 bankruptcy, where the stores would close down and they would liquidate all of their assets. So don't worry, your favorite neighborhood JOANN isn't closing yet, hopefully. Following these bankruptcy proceedings, JOANN will go back to being a private company and all of their stock will be delisted from the NASDAQ and stock exchange. The goals of the company during this time are very clearly laid out in this statement by Chris DiTullio, the CCO and co-lead of the interim office of the CEO. Remember what I said about lack of cohesive leadership? He says,
"Over the past several months, JOANN has made meaningful business improvements through the execution of our Focus, Simplify, and Growth cost reduction initiative. We are confident that the steps we are taking will allow JOANN to drive long-term growth."
So, growth. The goal is growth, which is a fine goal to have, but it's something we'll note here. The company initially announced that they were on an expedited timeline and were hoping to wrap up this silly little bankruptcy business by the end of April. And how's that going? Well, they were supposed to have a court hearing on April 17th, but they canceled it. So that's probably not a good sign, right? But let's step back from what's going on now to see sort of how we got to this point, and really to look at what JOANN has been doing to shave operating costs in order to maximize profit and growth. But first, speaking of shaving, thank you to Harry's for sponsoring this video. Now, I personally have been using Harry's products for a while, so I was really excited when they reached out to me. And if you didn't know, they have more products than just razors and shaving essentials. Let's break down what's included in their online exclusive Shave and Suds bundle. You of course get to try a Harry's razor with one of their orange Truman handles that is ergonomic with a no-slip grip, weighted core, and textured grip that feel nice in your hand. The pack also comes with 2 blades and an 8-count pack of replacement blades, as well as a free travel-sized body wash and exfoliating face wash. And Harry's foaming shave gel with aloe. This bundle is available online through the link in the description, and if you're more of a shopping in person kind of person, these products and more are available at retailers like Target, Costco, Walmart, and a variety of grocery stores and drugstores. It's super convenient to just grab something at a store you're already shopping at. No need to make a special trip to grab your shaving essentials. Wherever you are, Harry's is too. Wherever you are, Harry's is too. Wherever you are, make sure to check out the Shave and Suds bundle through the link in the description, or pick something up the next time you're at your favorite store. Thanks again, Harry's. Let's get back into it.
JOANN's revenue has been on the decline in recent years.
How did this happen? How did they get to this point? It's kind of hard to pinpoint the exact moment in the rise and fall, if you will. And now listen, I can see you there on the other side of the screen, shaking your head and thinking, oh, it's a tale as old as time. JOANN fell into the potential of becoming this big corporation. They made a deal with private equity, they made strategic changes to their name and brand in order to keep things profitable, and they had a lot of trouble keeping their C-suite intact, with their CEO retiring about a year ago and them being without a CEO for a year. And I know, but hear me out. Like I mentioned before, in 2010, JOANN was bought out by Leonard Green Partner, a private equity firm based in Los Angeles, for $1.6 billion. At the time of the buyout, LGP had over $9 billion under management. If you know nothing about private equity, it basically invests in companies that are not publicly traded. The whole system of private equity is for firms or individuals with a lot of capital to put money into companies looking for returns that are higher than they would get just from the public market. So it's all to make more money, and these private equity firms generally focus a lot on growth in the companies that they buy out. For a deeper understanding and to answer the question of what does private equity really do, I recommend this video called So Does Private Equity Own Everything by Good Work.
Subway, Barnes & Noble, 1/3 of Europe's soccer teams, a Formula One team, California Pizza Kitchen, Hooters, Adweek, Neiman Marcus, FanDuel, Highways in India, the music of Taylor Swift, hospital emergency rooms, PacSun, gastroenterology clinics, and even Oatly. That would make the sickest mall ever. Together, private funds now have over $25 trillion in assets under management, a big chunk of which is private equity.
They're really responsible for some of the worst, most abusive business practices in the country.
We're talking about a big circle of pain that enriches a very small, elite group of people.
Private equity is super pervasive, but what's really important for the purposes of this video is that it is kind of bad news in my super unprofessional opinion. And at the core of everything is this dichotomy between the lives and world of people running these private equity firms and the lives and world of the employees who work at the corporations that the private equity firms run. I think the saying has something to do with ivory towers. Or maybe we can drop the metaphor and say it's less about the material of the tower and more about the panoramic view of these tiny towns where they would rather take another group picture rather than paying their employees or listening to the people who actually purchase from the businesses that they run. But that's just my opinion. What went wrong with Jo-Ann Fabrics? I've hinted about this in the video before, but I think really distilled down to the essence, a bunch of business people made a bunch of business decisions to benefit the business people, while not really understanding or honestly caring about the customers and the product. The product being a niche store, a craft store that is different from just a generic big box store. And as we've discussed already on this channel, the craft economy is a very unique economy. Customer loyalty and brand loyalty is huge. Crafters are really picky with their supplies, and if they pick you, you should do everything in your power to make sure that they keep picking you. In my humble opinion, the focus of a craft brand should always be on retaining customer loyalty and improving the product and not on growth for growth's sake. And does this sound familiar to any of you?
Knitting.com. Knitting.com. Hey, Mr. Influencer, I'm from Knitting.com. Hey, Mr. Journalist, I'm from Knitting.com.
During the height of the pandemic, Jo-Ann saw a huge influx in new customers. They reported that their customer base grew by 15 million people in 2020. And at the same time, they were realizing that they didn't really have to compensate their employees fairly for the work that they were doing during a global pandemic. While some of these new customers have since stuck around and continued crafting, others went back to jobs or lifestyles that don't afford them the luxury or the extra cash to be crafting at the rate that they were before and buying craft supplies at the rate that they were in 2020. Not to mention the rising cost of living, so people might be more inclined to spend a little extra money on some more groceries or on their rent than going to Jo-Ann Fabrics. And where I think they really fucked up is that they saw this influx in new customers as a pathway to infinite growth. And when that stopped working, they decided to double down on not paying people.
$2,000. Yeah, I'm gonna pay you $100.
It feels like the board and the executives just continued to make incorrect assumptions about people. They plugged them into their little equations and their formulas, but they didn't think about what they actually had to do to keep those customers. If this story sounds familiar to you, you're not alone. You've just been paying attention. There have been a ton of chains that have followed this same trajectory and declared bankruptcy over the past few years. Some major examples just in 2023 are Bed Bath & Beyond, David's Bridal, Tuesday Morning, and Party City. While many of these businesses closed down in large part to the ongoing economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, Party City went into 2020 already a bit deflated, if you will, due to a helium shortage in 2019. And Bed Bath & Beyond went down a very similar path that Jo-Ann did, but just on a slightly larger scale. In the late 90s and early 2000s, they kept hitting record sales numbers due in part to their massive selection of home goods. $1 billion in sales in 1999, $7 billion in 2005, and all the way up to $1 billion net income in 2013. Very similarly to Jo-Ann, an investment firm came in, pushed the board out, pushed the CEO out, and it pretty much just went downhill from there. Also like Jo-Ann's, Bed Bath & Beyond relied heavily on coupon marketing to get people to come into the store, which worked really well for a while, until e-commerce became a much bigger player in the game and presented sort of a twofold problem to them. First, online shopping made it a lot easier for people to get their products elsewhere, like directly from the brands that Bed Bath & Beyond was stocking in stores. And secondly, Bed Bath & Beyond just never really made a website that was pleasant or easy to use. They started with a huge lead in the game, they made it through the 2008 recession, which ended up taking out their biggest competitor, Linen & Things, but because they skimped on making a good website, they just kept slipping further and further behind, and the nail in the coffin really was the pandemic for them. They tried to expand, but they didn't take the time to understand what people liked, wanted, or needed them to be, or adjust to the changing consumer landscape. All this to say, what's happening with Jo-Ann isn't unique, it's a pattern that we're seeing over and over again. But is all of this corporate downfall just inevitable? What we're seeing from Joanne is not super unique to us, but it is indicative of a wider societal problem that a lot of us are facing. Upper management, boardroom, CEO, etc. get so wrapped up in profit that they lose sight of the product that they're actually selling. But it doesn't have to be like this. As a counterexample, Trader Joe's consistently sticks to their branding, their product quality, and most importantly, their low prices. Trader Joe, aka Joe Coulombe, wrote a memoir called Becoming Trader Joe. In a review of this memoir in The New Yorker, Carrie Batten writes,
Coulombe insists that success in business hinges not on the mind of a visionary leader or anticipating a technological disruption, but on more mundane and hard-earned factors: ruthless product knowledge, respect for employees, plenty of good luck, and a deep understanding of complex legislation.
Hello everyone! Thanks for joining me here on such short notice. Sales are way up because everybody is just sitting at home, crafting all the time. Yay! I wanted to bring you here today to see if anyone has any ideas of how we can keep this growth up. Keep it going, keep it going.
Maybe offer more coupons?
Ooh, I think we should throw a party. Okay, party. We're not California Governor Gavin Newsom. We're not throwing a party during lockdown. Anyone else have any other ideas?
Oh, have you tried doing mass layoffs? Just cut down all the full-time people to part-time. Technically, you have to pay severance, but if you just say you're going to, and then you stop paying, it's actually a pretty great way to save some quick cash.
That's not a half bad idea. Mass layoffs. We'll save that one for when we really need it.
Or, and hear me out, this might sound crazy, you can instead focus all your energy on actually improving your products, offering a limited range of popular seasonal items that keep people wanting to come back, making your prices low so people could actually afford them, flirting with the customer a little bit at the cash register so it's like a little treat for them to actually buy things.
I'm sorry, but who invited Joe?
Oh, that was me. Now, party, what did we tell you about bringing your friends to our meetings?
Hey, did you make sure to wink at the customer? Hey, let me see that dashing smile. Perfect, that'll work on every customer.
And is Trader Joe's perfect? No. They've been pretty shady with union busting, they've made some interesting collabs, but they are a good example of what I'm talking about in the branding and pricing sense and what brings people back to their store as opposed to going to other grocery stores. And now we've come to the most important question of the video so far. Who does the bankruptcy affect the most? Not the private equity firm. Joanne is just one of the businesses in their portfolio. If something happens to them, LGP will be fine. Not the board of directors, and certainly not the C-suite of the company. In the text of the SEC bankruptcy filing, it's listed that the CFO, CCO, and CMO will all receive retention bonuses if they stay with the company for the next 6 months. So that is $535,740 to Chris DiTullio, these numbers are too big, okay? $135,740 to Scott Sekala, and $371,250 to Robert Will. So yeah, the bulk of the fallout that the company is facing is going to land on people that are actually in the store working. The people stocking the shelves, ringing you up, and cutting your fabric will be the ones facing the consequences of the esoteric business decisions that the aforementioned people will benefit from. In January, I spoke with a Joanne keyholder at a store in Florida. I'll be referring to them under the pseudonym Sam to protect their identity. In July of 2023, Joanne notified all full-time employees and managers at this location that they would be undergoing some sort of employment restructuring. Employees could either leave and receive a $2,000 severance payment, or they could stay on, go down to part-time, and receive a pay cut. Sam told me that almost all of the full-time employees at this location ended up leaving. Sam is a full-time student and is working part-time at Joanne. After this round of thinly veiled layoffs, they ended up being promoted to keyholder, working 35 hours a week, closing the store, and making $13.10 per hour. During the week of Thanksgiving, Sam had requested 4 weeks off. Instead, they were scheduled for 2 11-hour shifts in a row on Black Friday and the following Saturday. Sam told me that they felt like if they put in their 2 weeks, the store would fall apart. In addition to this increased responsibility that some of the employees were facing at work, A lot of employees were having trouble being scheduled for hours. And if we remember that most of the senior employees left their positions, almost everybody in the store was brand new to what they were doing. So we have brand new employees and less employees in the store. Sam said that these new employees would make understandable mistakes, like mistakes cutting fabric or accepting fake bills at the register. They said there were times when there were only 3 people working in their store that was the size of a grocery store. 1 person at the fabric cutting counter, 1 person at the register, and Sam running around doing everything else. In a busy store, staffing moves like this make the store very inefficient, but in an empty store, especially at night, this is a legitimate safety concern. Another consequence of the understaffing is that employees had to pick up even more slack dealing with the online ordering system and shipping. While Joann does have a distribution center to send out larger items, the majority of online orders are shipped out from the stores themselves. For the month between Black Friday and Christmas, Sam said they had thousands of unfulfilled orders. They would pack up to 200 orders a day, but the number on the ticket would just never go down. They said their system just said 2,000 orders for about a week straight. In an attempt to speed up this process, Sam said that the store offered incentives where if employees packed more orders, they could be scheduled for more hours in the store.
Oh, come on!
Again, if you ordered from Joann during this time, it's no surprise that your packages were delayed, canceled, or packed kind of weirdly because they ran out of packing supplies. Sam said that they planned to continue working at Joann mostly because of their coworkers, but they had a list of things that they would do if they were in charge to improve this whole system. They would hire more people, give employees adequate hours, offer full-time positions, and that the company should get away from this infinite growth mindset after the early pandemic boom. While all of the corporate press releases and everything we're seeing publicly says that Joann will remain open and the stores will not be closing, there's really no way to know for sure if these employees will have any sort of lasting job stability. Why don't people who work at Joann just leave in this time of uncertainty and get a job somewhere else? Well, a lot of these employees have been working there for years. They have friends in the store, and underneath it all, they just believe in the store and they hope that things will get better. They want to see the store that they work at be a place where people can enjoy shopping. And also just people need money. Not everybody can just find a new job.
About 200 bucks.
One Joann keyholder on Reddit, 9 of Swords, says it well. I am but a violinist on the deck of the Titanic, till the bitter end. When I went into researching this, I thought there would be some missing puzzle piece grand reveal of what specifically went wrong with Joann. Some turning point that we could all look at and be like, oh yeah, that's where they fucked up. But I think it really just boils down to this. Joann flew too close to the sun. They got sucked into the corporate infinite growth model. After their increased sales in 2020, they expected to see their profit increase exponentially from there. They saw new customers as guaranteed revenue forever, divorced from the economic conditions of the world. And trickle-down economics has never worked. It never trickles down. And in saying all this, it doesn't all start and end with Joann. Big companies like this are all on the hamster wheel of capitalism. I mean, all of us are. Everyone's just kind of getting screwed over by this system that is set up to benefit the people at the top. I'm stuck in it too. And I don't really have much else to say except hang in there. If this is something you're feeling bad about, at least know you're not alone in it. What a bleak ending. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm literally on vacation right now, but I have an update for you. Literally while I was filming, Joann put out this statement announcing that they would emerge from bankruptcy in the coming days as a private company, which, spoiler alert, they have. They've also reduced their $1 billion debt down to $500 million as a part of this court-approved financial restructuring plan. And they managed to do so without laying off any employees or closing any stores, at least after they filed for bankruptcy. Oh my God. Look at that bug.
We gotta get that out of here.
Get me out of here! Okay, anyway. Akron Beacon Journal talked to some local Ohioan tailors who said they were super glad that Joann was exiting from bankruptcy, but they weren't certain that all of their problems were in the past. Online retailers and their competitors still exist. They're still $500 million in debt, which I don't know if that's a lot for a business, but it sounds like a lot to me. Their bankruptcy information website, joannforward.com, has been taken down. Their Instagram made a somewhat cryptic Instagram post if you have no idea what's going on. All is calm in Joann land. For now. They've emerged now. That's great. I really hope things keep going well. I hope that employees don't lose their jobs and stores don't close. But business is business. We don't really know what's going to happen. I think an important lesson to learn from all of this is that no matter how much a 26-year-old YouTuber speculates on the downfall of your business and your business mistakes, if you're a corporation, you're probably going to come out on top. So I guess you could say, I got topped by Joanne.